New reports show that Al-Qaeda now controls 25% of Yemen, and a lot of it's on the seaport. They're also creeping north towards Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, the European Parliament, which is a joke, is calling for an arms embargo against Saudi Arabia as the kingdom has killed more than 30,000 civilians trying to fend off the jihadi spread. Europe is in a complete free fall as a new wave of spring migrant invasion doubles. I don't even know where to start in this.
Well,
segment.
you mentioned something very brand new about the Yemen situation. You've got Al-Qaeda there, you got ISIS. I think you got ISIS there in little pieces. But
they're all the same thing.
The Houthi rebels from Iran, who are backed by Iran. You know, you got all.
It's like the Yankees, the Cubs, the Red Sox. They're all baseball teams.
Yeah, that's right. Whether they're Sunnis or Shiites,
they're all jihadists. Yes.
Yeah, well,
and they've taken over almost the entire coastline. So they've got the shipping, they've got the seaport in and out of Yemen, and all they've got to do is just keep creeping north.
Well, the one thing you missed is the choke point. Yemen, right across is Africa, is about a 20-mile choke point there. And if they control that area, you can't get a lot of the tanks coming up from the north trying to get out in the open sea. So that could really kill Saudi Arabia as far as being able to ship most of their oil, which could. There's a lot of things that can happen in the next few weeks, and I think will.
One concern that we have is that Al-Qaeda, ISIS, which is now in Libya, taking over that country, and that's exactly what Muammar Gaddafi told us. You take me out, and you're going to have extremists taking over. Yep, that's it.
All these dictators that were necessary to keep down these crazies that were coming in from all sides, and this stupid idea of having
Arab Spring.
Yeah, the Arab Spring, liberal democracy. These people have never had it. You know, if you look back into the history of that area, go back. You don't have to go back to the founding of Islam in the 3rd century or the early 4th century. You can just go back 1,000 years or 500 years when the Turks really took over under the Ottoman Empire. When they had it, they ruled with an iron fist, and that's how that area was kept quiet. And then you had the British in Egypt and the Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. So, but these places were kept quiet by force, not because the people were that good.
Our U.S. Navy was designed and founded based on fighting off Islamist pirates in Libya.
And also Algeria, the Barbary Coast.
Yes.
You know, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli.
Yeah, so this has been going on for quite a while, and you're right. If you don't have a strong man like Saddam holding these people in check, the whole thing gets out of control.
Every one of these countries had a strong man. There's no question about it. And
Mubarak, Gaddafi, Saddam, on and on.
Exactly. And what's happened is that this phony sense of trying to impose an American-style democracy on those places, which our current president talked about on his great speech on June the 9th, and the one chance we had to get rid of this horrible Iranian dictatorship, Islamic government, was an election.
The Green Movement?
Yeah.
But did we really have, I mean, there was some uprising, but you don't really think that was going to be effective, do you?
No, that was very effective. You know, where they killed that woman on the street and so on. There was a chance. There were thousands of people involved in that one. And Obama turned his back on it. He said, we're not going to interfere with it. We're in fact, if anything...
But he interferes in every other conflict in the world.
Exactly. When this conflict saw a possibility that... But you know, Iran, if you go back to 1953, when the CIA, under Eisenhower, was responsible for overthrowing the government headed by a guy by the name of Mohammad Mossadegh, who was a moderate. He really was. I mean, the CIA was afraid because they wanted to have the Shah in there because he was doing our bidding, and this guy wanted to have a strong, secular Iran. And they said he's a communist. Well, he hated communists as much as he did the crazy Mullah type of governments. But we got rid of him, and then we put the Shah up there, who was nothing but a weak sister. and he was just waiting, and he tried to impose a dictatorial type of royal government, and he didn't have, he had the immortals, he had about a few hundred soldiers that protected him, and they fell apart as soon as Carter got in there. Remember Carter's guy Young, who was the representative to the United Nations, and he said the Ayatollah Khomeini, who was imprisoned by the French, by the way, he said, this man is a saint, we should bring him back and he will reign over Tehran in a very...
Oh, he has?
Yeah, well,
oh,
but
yeah.
Nobody said he would do it in a very humane way, and he was told, it was just like selling, you know, when Carter sold the Panama Canal, which is what put Reagan in office. That was a big issue that got him kicked out, because if you recall, 60 days before the election, Reagan was down about 30% point, and then he started going in, who gave away the Panama Canal? And of course, at that point, we didn't make a big deal about Reagan. I mean, that big deal about...
Well, you know, the other part of that is that the entire media was completely 100% leftist owned and leftist mentality at that time. You wouldn't even have known if Reagan had any support in the country because it wouldn't have been reported on. Not like today where you've got all kinds of outlets.
Yeah, no, I don't think that was so much the issue. I think the fact was that Reagan was looked at as a cowboy, you know, crazy guy who was going to get
his finger on the nuke.
Yeah, but then this Panama Canal thing, I remember that so vividly, became the big thing because he attributed that to, at that time, Hong Kong was not in the hands of China. The British still had the lease on it. But he did a very beautiful job. When you remember, he was the spokesman for GE, the GE Hour, and he said they gave away our Panama Canal, which we invented the country of Panama, Theodore Roosevelt did, in order to have the Panama Canal. And so we just looked the other way and let the communists take it away from us.
Remember the marketing behind the Morning in America? Are you better now than you were 4 years ago? I mean, there was some really strong ad campaigns going on at that time, too, that really broke Carter's back. The inflation was at, what, 17% at that point?
Oh,
interest rates were at 18%.
It reached the height. You can't blame that.
And the Malaise speech. Remember that Jimmy Carter Malaise speech?
Yes, he said our answer was downsizing. We've gotten too big for our britches. We've got to become smaller. You're absolutely right.
We only have a couple minutes left here, but Europe is seeing another wave, and ISIS said this a year and a half ago, that they were going to start flooding Europe with their fighters. And they're doing it again this year. They're going to double the amount of people that they send there. At what point does Europe break and collapse, or do they stand up and get some governments that are going to stop
Well,
this?
I'll tell you one thing that's going to happen. You know, the United Kingdom, England, is now... They already got the Pakistanis, they got the Bangladeshis, the guys that India, where they had the colonies, and now a lot of those people are taken over in England and London. You know, you can't walk down the street without burn nooses all over the place.
Londonistan?
And yeah, well, he's and there's now a big argument going on in the British Parliament whether they should get out of the European community entirely. My prediction is within 2 years, the British are out of there. The one thing they did, smart thing they did do, which the German didn't.
The pound?
They took the pound is a very, very positive currency in the world today.
So you think the whole European Union breaks up, or do you think they hold on with the member nations that they have and just kind of slowly die?
Well, the European community is now based on its lowest common denominator, like Greece, Spain, and Portugal.
Yeah. And Germany is the one that's left holding the bag in all this.
That's exactly correct.
What they're doing with this migrant invasion is just beyond me. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a radical political shift in Germany coming very, very soon.
No, I disagree with you. I think if there's one country I'm an expert on is Germany. They were so solid and they reacted so violently to the horrible Nazi era that the German people who had backed the Nazis. You know, this idea that, well, you know, who are the Nazis? The Nazis were the German
So
people.
is this a guilty mark that's never going to go away
Well,
ever?
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a matter of a guilt feeling. It's a matter of the fact that they have something to prove that they are. You can say guilt, but the fact is they feel that they want to be respected again, like they were when they controlled things by the sword before the 1914.
We need to take a brief time out. Our Homeland Security, Political Insider, and The Moment in History are coming up. Again, if you want to watch the show or catch any of the segments, just go to theworldreport.org. Remember to like us, recommend us, leave comments, and share with your family and friends. Our quote of the day: one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. Plato.